All right, welcome back. This is It's Time Picks. We have UFC uh, Saudi Arabia this week, and the card has been shuffled and changed so many freaking times. It's not even funny. We are set on 11 fights currently. Hopefully, nothing else changes tomorrow or even Saturday morning. The whole thing has just kind of been a joke. The card is almost at the point of being scrapped. It's just dumb. Joey, where are you at with this card, man?
So one thing I'm gonna start it off with. I'm happy. It's an early card. Yes, Drake said morning. It is a noon card. Thank you, Jesus. Then we can do whatever we want the remaining of our day. But with it being a crazy moving around card, there's actually some decent spots on the card. Some decent fights that actually could live up to be pretty good. Um, Besides that, I'm ready to go in and see if I can kick your ass in picks this week. But I have a feeling we're probably gonna be pretty close in most fights.
Probably. But all right, let's jump right into it. First fight of the night. We have a couple of prospects coming over from Road to UFC, I believe.
Yep.
We got Long Zhao or Zhao Long going against Chang Ho Lee. And as always, we will kick it over to Joey to start us off.
So I finally watched them, but all today. You know, Shanghai, excuse me, he has well-roundedness. He does have good grappling game whenever he gets to it. Decent volume on the feet. Chung Lee, he was the more, and I would say the more impressive guy. He got two finishes. That's always good to see. And even the last one, he was in a fight against a very good wrestling grappler. Had his way with him on and off, but didn't give up, and then found the finish. I love seeing that. And from what I saw, Lee was actually the favorite beginning of the week. He was like a minus like 150, 160, and then line got all the way down, and now he's a dog. One thing I've seen about his opponent, yes, he does go to decisions. He had a split decision he got lucky with, personally. So there's a chance that he couldn't even been in this fight. I'm actually going, and I thought he was the younger guy, but he's actually the older guy. I'm going Lee. I think he's more dangerous, and if any of the two do finish, I think Lee could catch him on the feet.
Yeah, I don't disagree. So the thing about Long Zhao, he's 26 and 8. He's only 26 years old. He's already got 30 plus fights, which I find pretty impressive. That said, none of the competition has really been all that great. His decisions worry me. If this goes to a decision, I actually lean on him to get the
Mm.
fight. Chung Ho Lee is definitely more viable to finish, which is why I have him picked, and that's why the majority of people are taking him as well. The money is coming in on him. The majority of the picks are coming in on Lee. So I fully expect him to probably be the heaviest owned dog in DFS, especially with the lack of dogs we have this week.
So one thing I will say also, with all the money now coming back on Lee, like I said, he started as a big favorite, now transferred to a smaller dog. Don't be shocked by Saturday before the fight starts if he actually becomes the favorite again on the books. So if you do think he wins, try to get the plus money now.
So both of us are locked into the dog for the very first fight of the night and Chung Ho Lee. Next up, we have Magomed Gadzhiasalov against Brenson Ribeiro. Brenson Ribeiro lost to a much lesser fighter in his debut. Um, he hasn't really shown me anything that tells me that he can stick around in the UFC. My computer is pissing me off at the moment. Um, he's got the power. He's got really good power. He does have a decent ground game, but he just doesn't have the game to stick in the UFC. That's just how I feel about it. On the other hand, you got another Russian who is probably just going to come in here and obliterate him. Ribeiro got knocked out early in his last fight when I was on Ming Yang Zhang, and you were not. And I just I don't know. I expect to stand in the first round again. It's Magomed is he's a dangerous fighter. He's a really good striker, and Brenson Ribeiro hasn't shown me anything that tells me he can last. So I got the favorite in this one.
So I actually got the favorite too, and I'm actually gonna test this. Did you say the full name, or you just said Muhammad or Mamagomed?
It's Magomed.
I'm okay. I'm gonna try to say the last name.
I
Let's see
already
how close.
did.
I want to see if I can get it. Gaziazulov.
Close.
Okay, okay, I appreciate that. Uh,
Gadzhiaslov.
okay, someone studied his last name. I didn't study shit. I just went for the first one. Because
I'm
remember, he was
just
on the
used to
contender
saying their
series.
names.
So he was actually coming from the Contender Series, and I think he was one of the biggest favorites of the whole entire overall seasons that went on that season. And yeah, he showed he has some well-roundedness. He has some good striking, good wrestling. So he does like to control and hold people. He doesn't even look for the finish too much on the ground. It's more position, and then he'll tap you a little bit. I think he's gonna win no matter what in this fight. Like Ribeiro, don't get me wrong. If you told me if somebody got knocked the hell out, could Ribeiro do it? He could. He has power in his hands. He's wild as shit. You know, he has the better grappling, meaning just pure BJJ. But one thing I say about that, I hate how I'll refer him to, I hate to say this, the Terrence McKinney syndrome. Well-rounded as shit. But what happened? Either his cardio goes early or he gets chinned. And I hate to say that, but that's where I got Ribeiro in the same thing. Like, if you're playing big GPPs, take a shot with him. Could he get a flash finish? Maybe. But I think Magomed is going to run through him.
Absolutely.
I don't know if he finishes him. I think he should. But we've seen how Gaziev does is a little bit low volume at times, but he likes to control or anything. But he's a lock. As Drake would say, I think Drake can answer this. Lock and cash games and go from there.
Yep. Absolutely. So both of us are on the favorite in Gaziasilov. Next up, we have Kyung Ho Kong against Muin Gafarov. And who you got in this one, Joey?
Okay, let me pour this Pepsi. So we're on Kang versus Gavia. So this was one fight I went back and forth with. Kang, I think he's definitely shown, at least in the UFC, which I didn't know he had an 8-4 record. I was like, man, he's probably been a journeyman. No, I was like 8-4. Okay. I'm still torn on this fight personally, and this is where I think people might use this spot as a leverage, and I'm more looking at it as a leverage play. For some reason, I know outside the UFC, he got finishes. Were they against overall competition? Not really, no. But he is, I think, more rounded. He's the better pure power striker. I think he could possibly knock down or possibly knock out Kang. I'm going Gaziev. I'm probably saying with low confidence, but the more leverage play, if you want to get to Kang or Kang, then 4 out of his 5 wins, or 4 out of his 8 wins. Sorry, is 3 of them are by round 1 subs. So he's very, very live. If he gets a good entry and gets a neck or an arm or the back, he can finish it quick. That's more of your, definitely get your leverage. But I'm going Gavrov.
Gafarov is the favorite, though I don't agree that he
Which
is.
that was one thing I was actually shocked about.
Well, I'm not. I wouldn't say I'm really.
I was
shocked.
hoping that he would actually be dog. I was personally because he's 0-2.
Yeah, I've got Kong in this fight. His chin does worry me, especially after his last fight. But Kong is the better fighter in this fight. Better all around game, better everywhere except for power. And the second this hits the mat, he's going to have full control. So I like Kong in this one. I like him to get a submission sometime within the first 2 rounds. And he's one of the only other dogs that I actually like on this card. So
be aware. I'll say this right now. If I look through this whole card, if one fight flips, it might be this one. I'll just say that right now, nice and early. I know. Shut up.
All right. Well, we are split currently on this one. I've got the dog in Kong. Joey's got the favorite in Gafarov. And next up, we have Rinat Fakhretdinov against Nicholas Dalby. And this is a dangerous fight. And I say that for a few reasons. Fakhretdinov did go to a draw in his last fight, which I'm not really worried about the draw because I think he won that fight. What more worries me is he is going against a guy who is one of the tougher outs. He actually is probably one of the toughest outs just in general in the UFC, not just the division. He has never been finished, and I don't expect him to get finished in this fight. What I do expect is for Fakhretdinov to put him on the mat and just keep him there and controlled. Now, if he's doing that without striking, he could end up losing this fight if he loses the time on the feet. If he could, I mean, if he does that and he's got 12 minutes control time and 3 takedowns, he's not going to score well. So this is a bit of a trap fight, in my opinion. I do have Fakhretdinov. I do think that he wins, but I am going to be very leery of playing it in DFS.
So, one thing I know about Dalby, and it's just the most craziest things I just realized. Throughout his last 5 fights, he lost to an old Tim Mean. I saw that. He beat a Claudio Silva, which I thought Claudio Silva should have been outside the UFC. I wasn't a fan of him, but decent grappler. Then he beat a guy that he should have finished in Alves, but it went to a split. Then Mustin Sakov, me and you both said he should have been done ages ago. But one thing I do give Dalby respect for, he didn't give up against Bonfim. That he showed who had the bigger balls that night. Um, but you know what I noticed? The last 4 fights, 3 out of 4 against Brazilians. I didn't see him fight no OV fighter. And this is one OV fighter that can mix it up on the feet with good power, good time takedowns, and he even has his own grappling if he needs to get to it. If you guys follow me on Twitter at Joe DFS Betting, I will give you a little hint. Hey, I'm trying to get my name out there, so shh. Renat is one of my more confident picks on the card. I will say that right now. The video should get dropped either by tonight or probably tomorrow morning. You'll see the video why. But I think Renat's going to run through him. You know, there's times where Dalby guard is low. It wouldn't shock me if Renat possibly catches him with an overhand, drops him, maybe gets like a TKO or back snatch. It wouldn't shock me. Dalby's going to get cracked on these fights. You know, he's a good, experienced fighter himself, but all it takes is one clean punch. I'm not saying it's going to necessarily happen, but I'm more towards Fakardinov getting takedowns, control, maybe some ground and pound. Somewhat similar to what he did to Brian Battle, possibly. But yeah, he's my more confident picks on the card. I'm playing him on everything for DFS and parlays.
And I'm sure many people will be in that same boat. So both of us are with the favorite in Fakardinov in this fight. This is working. Next up, we have one of my favorite fights to target. Oh no, it's interesting. There's two different lineups. I'm just going to stick with Tapologies.
Okay.
We have one of my favorite fights. We got Muhammad Naimov against Felipe Lima. And I'm glad that you get to lead this off because one of my favorite fight, like I said, it's one of my favorite fights.
Ooh, so I was actually going back and forth on this one. I was like, I thought maybe Lima would be a bigger dog personally coming in because, like I said, he's fought as low as 125, primarily a 35er, and now taking this at 45 to get his opportunity just to even have a spot in UFC. Because I think win or lose, he's getting a spot. They probably gave him like a 2-fight contract. Um, I was thinking, like, look, outside the UFC, what's one style that gave Mimov some issues? It was somebody that can take him down. I think this kid is well rounded enough to do so, but I just think, too short notice. Muhammad is actually a big guy at his weight as it is, and I think he's gonna have almost damn near twice the size on him going into the fight. I think he's gonna mix in good time takedowns, and I think potentially maybe even for a late finish. So I'm going. I think Nemov's also one of my more confident picks on the card.
Well, I am also on Naimov. He is probably my most confident pick on the card. He's my lock of the card. He's my smash play of the card. I absolutely love him in this fight. I don't know why Lima's getting this shot, aside from maybe they just didn't have anybody else that could take it short notice, and Lima wanted to get into the UFC finally. I do not like Lima in this fight. I don't think he's that experienced. I don't think that he's that good. And at times you can see he's doesn't have the best IQ if you go and watch a lot of his fights. And the way that I see this playing out is Naimov is going to come forward, he's going to hit him a couple times, and then he either knocks him out or he just lays him on his back and suffocates the shit out of him like we've seen him do. So Naimov is one of my favorite plays. He's my smash play of the slate, and I am going to run away with that one.
So one thing I will say, originally there was a plan. Because the rumor was that the first backup fighter to this fight, he was supposed to be on this card as well. They were apparently going to allow Naimov versus Montel Jackson, and I would have been like, "Ooh, okay." I think Montel Jackson would have won that fight, but that's just could have would have saw it, but not didn't happen. They wanted this fighter to stay, and apparently this kid was getting ready for another fight anyway. So I was like, "Oh, why not? You're staying active. You probably don't need to cut weight for this fight, but show up, and we'll give you at least a 2-fight contract." And that's what I think the whole thing is. Like I said, but I actually been impressed with Nameoff and his UFC run. And I was like, damn. I forgot he came in short notice. Wait, was he short notice against Malarkey, or is he just that big underdog that you and I
Oh,
both said that Malarkey was gonna get knocked the fuck out to?
yeah,
So I can't talk too much about name off until I see it, but I think this is another smash spot.
definitely.
What is he like 8,400,
Yeah, 80.
83?
I think he's 83.
You giving me a guy that had could potentially scored in the 120s and a dominant win? Sign me up.
Yeah, nope, I completely agree. So both of us are with the favorite in Muhammad Naimov in this fight. Next up, we have Nasrat Haqparast against Jared Gordon, and this fight I am very leery of and weary of, and I don't know who I want. I have Nasrat winning because he's the better striker and he throws a little more volume. Um, but what worries me is Gordon taking this to the mat, where he will have a considerable edge. So I think Gordon is worth playing in GPP contests, and just sprinkling him in some, and possibly even cash because I don't think there's a finish in this fight. And the lack of dogs, especially low price dogs, if you want to get up to the high price, heroes on this slate, which is damn near impossible now. I think Gordon is an excellent play, but I do have Nasrat winning, but I will be playing Gordon in DFS.
So you pretty much read everything I was just gonna say as a whole. My pick is Hacker ass, but you know, could Gordon get chinned eventually? Is it possible? It's very in the realms of possibility. He could get chinned. Is it this fight? Who the hell knows? If it's the Malarkey fight, how Grass came out, could he chin Gordon if he fights similar? I think he could. But in the realms of possibility, I think this fight is going to be a point fight for Hackerass if he wins by decision. Or, like I said, Gordon at 72, was he like 71, 72? Like I said, if you want to get to the bigger dogs and other OV fighters, you want to try to lock into your line, Gordon's an excellent play for as a leverage play as a dog in this fight. He actually does win a good amount of decisions. And I hate to say it, he did beat Patty in that fight. He got fucking robbed in that fight. And I'm one of the biggest Patty fans, but eh. But that's for a whole nother conversation. But Knack is to me, it's a dog or pass fight, but I'm picking Hacker ass.
Yeah, so both of us are on the favorite in Nasrat Haqparast. Next up, we got Johnny Walker versus Volkan Ozdemir. And who are you leaning in this one?
What I'm so pissed about, and you know this, I've had so much success betting both. I've had them for DFS lines, I've had them for pure knockout props, and now I realize, okay, one thing I'll say about Ozdemir, he's showing improvement. Now he's actually showing that he can grapple a little bit for takedowns. I think that's more due to I don't want to get hit anymore. I think that's my overall leverage, but I'm actually leaning Johnny Walker here. You know, yes, he just got finished by Ankalaev. But if Ankalaev really does live up to his potential, he can be champion probably by sometime 2025. Um, I think if I'm Johnny Walker here, I would try to go back to the old school Johnny. Go out, be aggressive. Volk does end up sometimes, folding under pressure, coming forward pressure, strikes. I think there is a finish in this fight. So this is usually your 82, 8,000 fight, I believe, right? This is the 82,000.
Uh, yes, it is.
I believe the fight is. Okay. So
Walker's
there's
82.
usually a high percentage that I think it's like over in the mid 50s, I believe I heard that usually the winner of this fight tends to score well. So if you want to get leverage and get away from it and think it's not going to score well, then I think you're going to get some decent leverage. But I think there's a chance Walker gets them within the first 2 rounds.
Yeah, I've got Walker in this one too. And if you go and read my article on RotoWire, you'll see that I like Walker a lot, but the way that I think that he loses this is by once again beating himself because his fight IQ sucks and he likes to walk into straight punches. Ozdemir does have solid striking, solid power. He doesn't throw enough for my liking, but Walker does need to be careful in this fight. But I do think that he gets the job done. So both of us are on the small and slight favorite in Johnny Walker. Next up, we have one of Joey's favorite fights in Shara Magomedov against the newly inserted Antonio Tricoli, who was supposed to fight somebody else. Shara was supposed to fight two other people, and now somehow this fight has become a thing. Um, I expect this to kind of I can see this going one of two ways. So Tricoli hasn't fought in 3 years, and anytime a fighter's been off that long, you just can't trust him. He does have the better grappling if he does get this to the mat, which I mean, we don't know what he's been doing over 3 years. He could have been doing all sorts of things. He could have been working on striking, could have been working on more, BJJ, anything like that. So I do think at 6,700, it's worth playing him a couple times in case he does somehow get this to the mat and finishes Shara. It is possible. More than likely, though, we'll see Magomedov just go off and knock him out. So Magomedov is my pick, but Tricoli could surprise.
Yeah, he pretty much, like I said what I was gonna pretty much say. I've been on the Shard train since outside the UFC. I forget even how I came across him, but I showed Drake. I was like, dude, this is one scary SOB. Ever since then, I've been following him. Very good, dangerous striker, but clearly you need to work on your grappling defense.
And maybe he has since his last fight. Who
Maybe
knows?
because usually if
I
you
mean,
think about an OV, you're thinking of somebody that has good grappling or good sort of takedowns. This dude's like, nope, I'm gonna come forward because I look like a movie villain, which apparently I heard he's gonna be in a new movie coming out, apparently, which
as an
I'm
assassin.
excited as an assassin. Oh, you heard about it. Good.
You
I can't
sent it
wait to
to
see.
me, dummy.
I forgot about it. Jesus. I've been busy, bro. But honestly, I think there's a good chance if Tricoli doesn't go for takedowns, because like I said, he's been practicing his overall kickboxing. Char's gonna make this look easy. Quickly. So I think he's gonna get a lot of ownership in this fight because he's under 9K. And very live for a round one finish. And shoot, it wouldn't shock me if he got a quick bonus, possibly. Because Tricoli has no striking defense for shit, but it's almost like Weston Wilson last week. We said, and we both said, we don't have the balls to pull the trigger. But if he was to win, it's if Jerry got close, and guess what happened? He got close, taken down, and easily submitted with no problem. Could it happen this way too? Very possible. I would say the same shit. It wouldn't. If you told me that Tricoli end up clinching up, pulling guard, getting a sub, I wouldn't be shocked one freaking bit. So, in a few lineups, as Drake said, them big GPPs, you definitely going to get leverage out the ass if you end up going Tricoli. But I'm going Shara, and I think Shara is going to get a mid round one, maybe round two type of finish.
I'm actually going to tell you what my favorite bet is for this fight, and it's the plus over 1.5. Just so you know.
Ooh. Oh, I have to look at that. Uh-oh.
So we are both on the favorite in Shara Magomedov. Next up, we have come on. Kelvin Gastelum against Daniel Rodriguez. And I don't want to spend too much time on this fight for several reasons. The biggest being is that Kelvin Gastelum once again is going to struggle with the weight cut and not get to a 170. So they've decided to make this likely a 185 bout that'll be announced tomorrow. I think that's dumb. Joey, who you got?
So I'll tell you now, if you come to someone with well-rounded skills, Calvin's well-rounded as shit. Does his IQ suck? Absolutely. I can tell you that right now. His IQ sucks. Is he the more rounded guy in this fight? Yes. But lately he thinks he's this bouncy round striker. And if you're telling me you're gonna try to bounce around with Rodriguez, good the hell luck, because his boxing's smooth as shit. And he will be the better striker in this fight. I just think at some point Kelvin is gonna be smart, mix in a couple takedowns and secure rounds. My pick's Kelvin, but if I'm doing anything for DFS wise, I'm going straight down to Daniel Rodriguez because I think his volume alone could win this fight. That you're not just gonna knock out Kelvin, but Kelvin's the pick. Not playing him for DFS. Be careful what bets as a whole with him, but that's how
Here's
I'd
my
stay with.
here. I have Gastelum as well, but here's my big issue: is I've taken Daniel Rodriguez in almost every UFC fight he's ever been in, and that included the Neil Magny fight. I did take Machado Gary in the last fight against him. With that said, over the last 3 fights, Daniel Rodriguez has just been a completely different fighter, and I don't know if it's because his chin got checked so hard in another fight or what it is, but his volume has gone down significantly. He's not striking, he's not active, and you can't. It's not sustainable. He's 37 years old, and he's going to put himself in a bad spot if he's not going to step in there and strike. Now, if he comes in there and steps in there like he did against Lee, Parsons, or Perry, I'll take Daniel Rodriguez all day. but
Hmm.
I don't think I'm not sure that we'll see that Rodriguez again. I know he still has it in him, but I don't know if he's willing to put it out there. It might be more or less that he's just fighting for a paycheck. So I'm on Gastelum, but I don't like this fight. I don't think that it scores well, and I will probably avoid it completely.
Couldn't
So
agree more.
we are both on the moderate favorite in this fight in Gastelum. Next up, we have Sergey Pavlovich against Alexander Volkov. And my picks will not change. I will not deviate from Pavlovich. I still think Pavlovich is going to be a future uh, champion in this division alongside Aspinall. Uh, I think we see a rematch for those two coming up probably within a year. I think Pavlovich does what Pavlovich does, and he knocks Volkov, who does not get knocked out very well in the first round. I think he gets right back at it. People are saying that Volkov's going to use his height. Well, guess what? Pavlovich has a 4-inch reach advantage. His height's not going to make a damn difference. I got Pavlovich by knockout in the first round.
So I remember I told you I had a theory with this fight the entire week. I told him I'm having this weird feeling. The whole friendship thing and how the whole fight, I wasn't even expecting it to happen personally, but that's a different story. I can tell you guys in the comments. But I'm still going Sergey Pavlovich the more and more that I actually look at it. Would it shock me if he doesn't go in there and get the 60 seconds? It wouldn't shock me. I think it could start off a little slow in the first minute or two.
I don't necessarily think it'll be 60 seconds, but I think he just gets it done in the first.
I don't know why I'm getting a weird feeling for this fight going slightly near the over 1.5. I don't know why. I've been saying it. Maybe they're more patient. Could it happen? It could, maybe. Especially if people really want to get gun shy against your own so-called friend. Who the hell knows? But I just think all it's gonna need really is one clean shot and the fight could be over. Volkov could be winning. Let's say if it goes within 2 rounds, Volkov could be winning 9 minutes and 55 seconds. Within the last 5 seconds, he get caught and go to sleep.
Pavlovich came out and said he wants to get right back to where he was. He feels
Yep.
that he's been forgotten. He's going to make a statement.
And he's under 9K. So that's another guy I think is that he's gonna be one of your favorites that people are gonna want to get into for GPPs. Some people say cash. That's more of a Drake thing. He's probably playing for cash if you feel confident.
Next, okay, so both of us are on Sergey Pavlovich. Me more so than Joey. Next up, we've got the main event. Rob Whittaker against Ikram Aliskerov. This was supposed to be Chimaev. He's out sick once again. So Aliskerov, who was supposed to fight last week, is stepping in this week to take on Whittaker. And I'm curious to see if you are still going with Bobby Knuckles.
Bobby Knuckles is my one of my all-time favorite guys too. Oh. But one thing that does scare me, and he showed it a little bit in the Costa fight, but Costa didn't finish him. But sometimes he walks in too much with his hands too low. He can get clipped when he tries to blitz. We've seen it in Aliskerov's, even his short fights in the UFC, especially against Phil Halls. Phil Halls tried to blitz. Askarov didn't even put no type of cork to a power to a punch and just gave him a nice little knocked him out clean. Askarov will be the better wrestler, but can we say for the most part, who the hell really takes down Whittaker outside of I think Gastelum him once or twice, but he got right back up. If Ingram doesn't get him out within the first 1.5 rounds, I think if it gets into your round 3, your round 4, your round 5, I think that's where you're really going to see Whittaker take over. Yeah, I'm not going to get. I'm going with my gut. I'm going with my balls. I gotta go stick with my boy Bobby fucking Knuckles.
So I'm going to read straight from my article for this one.
Oh shit. Okay.
So I started out with saying I do not doubt that Elise Krav is an excellent fighter. However, this step up in competition is just a fight or two too soon. Whittaker has been at the top of the division for what seems like forever, is still just 33, and continues to show he belongs in title contention. He has only lost to current or past champions over the last 10 years. And that is Izzy and Dreykus. That is all that he has lost to. I expect his game to still be way too refined for Aliskerov. Aliskerov's going to come in pumped up, and I finished it with saying I expect him to get this done in the championship rounds, which would be 4 and 5. So I do expect Aliskerov to come out hot. I do expect Whittaker to weather that storm. Aliskerov is going to get tired, and then Whittaker is going to finish him in the championship rounds. That's how I see this fight going. Bobby Knuckles is a much better fighter. Don't get me wrong, Aliskerov is good. He's got a lot of talent. I don't expect him to lose many fights in the UFC, but I do expect him to lose this fight.
I couldn't agree more. And I think Whitaker is at what, like 8,400. So
Something like that. And people are saying that the thing that made me really mad and upset is they're saying that Bob Whittaker is on the way down, that he's this and that. He's 33. He's my age.
yeah,
He give him 2 more years, and then you can tell. Then you can say that he's maybe on the way down. He's not on the way down. The entire cost to fight, except for that 30 seconds span,
big
he
kick.
looked phenomenal. He looked so freaking good. His striking was crisp. It was clean. And yes, he fights a little slower than some, but 5 rounds, 4 rounds, whatever he does this in, I think he pays off his salary.
Yep.
So both of us are on the favorite in Bob Whittaker, Bobby Knuckles, the Reaper. The Reaper will be reaping. Uh, that's it for this card. It is only 11 fights. It does start early on Saturday, as Joey mentioned earlier. It is Saudi Arabia. We will probably get fucked by judges again, so just be ready for that. As always, now. um, as far as this card goes, it's for me, it's almost entirely GPP.
Yep.
You just have to find the right plays. There's hardly any dogs that are worth really playing at the bottom. Um, it's tough to say, but next week we get a beautiful card. I cannot wait for it. I'm kind of glad that we don't have to watch Dumb and Dumber fight Chandler and McGregor, because it's just
Yep.
stupid and comedy at this point. But we do get to watch, Pereira and Prohaska go at it again. Oh man, I can't wait for that fight. I can't. I don't even know. And then they added to 303. They added Brian Ortega, T City against Diego Lopez. I mean, there's so many good fights on this card. We get to see Venom Page against Machado, Gary.
MVP.
That's gonna be a dumb fight, but people are here for it. Joe Pfeiffer's back on the card. Cub Swanson's fighting again. Peyton Talbot's fighting. I mean, there's so much next week. It's going to be a hell of a card. It's not one you're going to want to miss, and we'll definitely have our show ready for that. But like I said, that wraps up this card. Joe, you got anything to add?
Be like Joe Pfeiffer.
Be like Joe Pfeiffer. All right. Well, as always, we appreciate you watching, and we will catch you next week for UFC 303.